Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, The Ark. Now, I wasn't really looking forward to rewatching this one, but when I did, I actually enjoyed it a little bit more. I still think it's one of the weakest stories of the season, but it might not be the weakest one full stop. At least not, that might change by the time we get to the end of season 3 and we get around to doing the ranking. It's certainly one of the weakest, but it's not the weakest at the moment anymore. I think that would go to Mission to the Unknown at the moment. However, we will see when we get to the ranking. So the plot of the Ark is, now this one is actually a bit different because you've got a kind of a two-part story and another two-part story kind of merged together. So it creates this story on how, so you get an adventure with the Doctor, Stephen and Dodo arriving on the Ark at one point in time for 2 episodes, and then at the end of episode 2 they travel 700 years to the Ark at a later point in time and have the next 2 episodes set then. What happens in the first 2 stories is Dodo has a cold and she's brought it on board the Ark, and it starts affecting the monoids, the human race, humans, servant race. It also affects the humans as well and eventually leads to several monoids deaths and 1 human. And they haven't got the cure anymore. They cured it centuries, millennium even years ago, and they've forgotten about it, so they forgot about it, and the Doctor and his friends are put on trial. Well, Stephen's definitely representing them for the crimes, although the deputy head, I'll call him, of the crew, he listens to what the Doctor was telling Stephen, and then he kind of twists his words a little bit in order to make him look like they deliberately brought the cold on board as well, as opposed to accidentally. And then at the end of episode 2, he's like, "Oh, I misjudged you, I'm sorry. You were right there, but your stupid single-mindedness made you think the opposite. You utter twat, and now you're saying sorry." Well, at least he said sorry, but you utter twat. Hate characters like these. There's worse characters than this, and God do I despise the characters that are worse than him. But he's definitely a shallow end of that pool. Oh God, we're going to get to the deeper end soon enough. I'm sure. I think the first one of those types of characters I despise appears in the 10th planet. So we'll get to that soon. But this guy is just stupid. I know he wants what's best for his humans and trying for his people and for the miniaturized people, but he's an idiot, and he's so determined to make the Doctor and his friends look like bad guys. He's certainly fixated on that in his mindset. It's only when the Doctor manages to make a cure is when he's actually like, oh, I was wrong about this. Even the prosecutor, at the prosecution of the trial, he's even thinking it might be best if the Doctor could find the cure before Dickhead is saying so about it. And then the actual leader, who's unwell, and that's why he's not around at the moment, he says, yes, do it. So he has more sense, even if he's unsure of the Doctor and friends' motives. He seems to be embracing them enough, but even if he was unsure, he's certainly got the right mindset. I guess this is coming from an audience point of view, but certainly from the human's point of view, they're all dickish as well, and they keep shouting a lot. I'm okay with like a whole group of people, but I'm not so sure with these crowds in early Doctor Who where there are these single characters who will say more, where there's lots of people shouting stuff, and then you can clearly hear some of the voices. Like, for example, if I was part of a crowd saying, "Burn the hang the criminals!" Like, they murdered our dog. They must die. Something like that. Christ, God help us if anything like that and that's actually happening in real life. So I kind of get a bit frustrated with Part 2. Part 1 not so much. It is a bit dull though. I am not so into it. Part 3 is kind of where things get a bit more interesting in terms of a story, because it's a bit like with The Long Game and Bad Wolf Parting the Ways. The events that happened in the past can, the Doctor's interference with it, or his involvement can lead to something a little bit different to what he's expecting in the future. I will say Long Game, Bad Wolf and Parting the Ways story is a little bit longer than this one's, because it's three 45-minute episodes instead of 4 25-minute episodes. So it's a bit like that, where they discover that their cold kind of created a mutation in the monoids, and also the humans helped develop technology that eventually helped them take over before they reached a new planet that they were going to go to, and wiped out most of them and kept the rest in slavery. So they now have to go to this new planet, and I don't know what it is, but classic Doctor Who does invisible creatures really well, because on the planet we've got invisible creatures. They do the invisible creatures really well when we're supposed to be seeing them like sit down on a seat and switch a couple of switches on the thing. That's really good. And a similar thing happens in Planet of the Daleks. So invisible creatures in classic Who, really well done. So that's one effect they can get done right. Anything to do with invisible people being noticed outside of someone wearing a big woolly coat, like in Planet of the Spiders. But besides that, everything else, really good. What's not so great is that some of the models of the spaceship of the monoids pods, you can clearly see has some wires on it. But I'll let them get away with that one. So the monoids have taken over the statue, basically. They've put their own head on the statue, and now they've planted a bomb in it to destroy the humans left on the ship. But the Doctor informs Stephen on where they can find it, and they manage to get rid of the statue. And there's kind of a monoid civil war at one point that leaves the rebellious monoid, I should say, single-handed, still alive. I think he's the only one. In fact, the death of Monoid 1, number 1, is anticlimactic. This battle was fine for what it was, but the death of Monoid number 1 was anticlimactic. So that's disappointing. Yeah, parts 3 and 4 are alright. They're not that much better than parts 1 and 2. Slightly better, but it's probably just because I preferred seeing how the monoids took over, how such a peaceful race became a bit more violent. So, the Ark, it's okay. It's alright. It's, yeah, it's alright. It's not terrible, but it's okay. Dodo's alright. I don't think she's that great of a character. Don't know why they gave her that silly Crusade costume. It looks a bit daft. I mean, if it was a Crusade story, like the Crusade, maybe. But it looks a bit daft. The Doctor and Stephen, on the other hand, they do great jobs as per usual, and the chemistry is starting to work well. I think the Doctor and Dodo's interactions are okay. It's just that Dodo's a character, besides having a cold, doesn't really have that much of a personality. Not really. I mean, she doesn't really believe them at first. They think she thinks they're at Whipsdale Zoo, which, by the way, just outside London, Dodo. I looked it up. It's in Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire. It's not far from Dunstable. So, it's just outside of London. It's a bit further out of London than you might imply. Dodo, it's closer to Dunstable and Luton. Okay, if you were looking on a modern map, it might be just outside the M25, but even then, that's not completely accurate either. But that's about it for the arc. It's not amazing, but it's okay. It's not terrible. I mean, I had an alright time of it. But I don't think it's that great of a story. I thought it was alright. I think maybe the two writers of it, maybe they wrote two, they came up with an idea of the story and then they decided to write half of it each and interconnected it. So that would have been a good idea, a bit like Terry Nation and Dennis Spooner in a way, on Master Plan. Anyway, so that's it from the arc. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Yeah, the arc, it's not that amazing. I am glad it's completely exists. This is the first story of Season 3 to completely survive on DVD, and it's one of the last ones of the Hartnell era. Most of them are in Season 2 or 1, but Season 3 is really badly affected for William Hartnell, and Season 4 is also pretty badly affected. You get quite a few, a couple of Season 4 stuffs have been partly reanimated or reconstructed for a DVD release, but there is no complete story from Season 4. Drat! How rubbish! This is another reason why the 10th Planet Part 4 is so sought out of. It will at least make one full Doctor Who story from that season, as well as the fact it's got the regeneration in it. And it's bloody brilliant anyway. Well, better than the other 3 episodes, we'll get to that. So, that's it from the arc. Next time we'll be looking at a story that is missing from Season 3, The Celestial Toymaker. Well, 3 episodes are missing, the first 3, but the 4th episode you can find on the Lost in Time box set, and it's the last of the 6 episodes on the William Hartnell disc, after The Crusade 1 and 3 and the Daleks Master Plan 2, 5 and 10. Patrick Troughton's 2 discs, you get the Underwater Menace 3, Moonbase 2 and 4, Faceless Ones 1 and 3, and Evil the Daleks 2 on disc 2. The latter 3 episodes I'll be watching on here, with the former 3 episodes on the Moonbase and Underwater Menace DVDs, with their animation and reconstruction versions. And then Abominable Snowman 2, Enemy of the World 3, Web of Fear 1, Winning Space 3 and 6, and Space Pirates 2 are on disc 2 of this. Again, I'll be watching Enemy of the World and Web of Fear on their own DVDs. And of course the reconstructions of the missing episodes, apart from the ones that have got reconstructions or the reanimations on the DVDs, their own DVDs, or in Enemy's case being complete, will be reconstructions on the Daily Motion. So that'll be what I'll be doing for Celestial Toymaker parts 1 to 3, Daily Motion reconstructions, and also this will go for the completely missing stories as well. And with episode 4, as I mentioned, on the Lost in Time DVD. And then we'll be on to the Gunfighters, which does survive. They haven't chosen the best ones to keep as an entirety. I mean, there's one, the War Game, not War Games, that survives as well, but we'll get to that later. But the War Machines, that's a good one to keep. But Ark and Gunfighters, not so much. I would have preferred bit more from Master Plan, or the Massacre, or Celestial Toymaker in its entirety, or Galaxy 4, or Mythmakers or Savages. Pretty much anything besides possibly Mission to the Unknown. Possibly. See how it goes. Anyway, so that's all from me. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. So I'm deciding going left to right. Oh, excuse me. So that's the arc. so he has more sense. Even if he thinks it's purpose, he might. That's two cuts at the same points. Sorry, me. So, with episode, but yeah, the Ark. Yeah, it's very good. No, it's not.